Welcome, everybody. We are back at it again. It must be a Thursday. Oh, in our calendar of events that can be celebrated, we did the team meeting this morning. It's Talk Like Yoda Day. So good luck weaving that into the narrative. Today's conversation is about onboarding. Reps and clients deserve the exact same amount of respect. Some sort of onboarding process, some sort of step changes, some sort of welcome, here's what's next, and what's next, and what's next. Because onboarding is either programmed in and part of your growth engine or a choke point that is killing your business. If it's disorganized, if it's unstructured, if it wastes their time, if it burns your budget, if it's frustrating, then you have this magical thing called churn, and the average on the customer side is 30%. So you lose 30 cents of all those hard-earned dollars by not having this stuff mapped out and working. Today, we're here to talk about role-specific, paced, systematized onboarding that helps people stay happy inside of the process. We'll talk about why most onboarding fails. The honest, easy answer for that is it doesn't exist. So it fails to exist, and that's where it starts failing. But after you figure that out, you want to think week by week and milestones. You want to layer things. You want to start small and easy and add complexity slowly. And you want to be able to map out what success looks like so you can help them get there. So hopefully by the end of today's conversation, you'll be able to start thinking about your blueprint, how you're going to onboard people, the pace of it. In my LinkedIn, it's one of the things that we actually hand out regularly is like a 14-page how to automate onboarding. And really, when you're doing this, it's because you care about your revenue. You want to reduce the time it takes to ramp people up, and you want them to feel welcome and happy to be there, and therefore they want to stay and come back. So where do you want to start with this one? I want you to tell the computer story because we had that in the preamble, and it's
all right. So this internal employee onboarding story. A little bit of context there. My brother-in-law is a IT professional, a cybersecurity architect, and he got a job working for quite a large firm. He went there on day one, and they said, "Sorry, we don't have a computer for you. Just hang out with so-and-so, and they'll show you around." Well, this continued for a month. There's an awful irony to that, considering the position he was hired to do. He cannot be effective. He cannot even properly onboard and learn and get registered, oriented, right? Security, VPN, like all the things that he needs to do to at least get up the first stair in his onboarding journey. He can't do it. Right? So tools is part of the solution. It's part of, like you said, Jacob, is just not happening.
You gave me a business idea, and I'm going to start a restaurant. No plates.
No plates.
No plates. Here are your fries.
Right. It's just, it's you can't make this stuff up, right? It's real life. It's IRL
Absolutely.
all day long. That's a thing that happens.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah. And then
so let's
go like into like Salesforce onboarding, right?
Yeah.
And people want to door-to-door sales onboarding. You show them a video of what it's like to do it? Or do
Right.
you just put them in the passenger seat of a truck and have them go out for a day with somebody who's a role model, qualified certified coach, and mentor for doing the job, right? Your highest level performer on the individual contributor path, right? And have them do the orientation, right? A little bit of training, a little bit of camaraderie, right? Social part of orientation, onboarding, right? This
So
is where the bathroom is, and this is how you talk to customers.
and you're touching on something super important here, which I think gets left out. Human in the loop. I love automation. Don't get me wrong. I'm the biggest fan of automation in the world. I want to use every automation there is to get that new customer to show up to the onboarding call so that we can put two people together and have that same relationship develop.
Right.
Right. And where are you stuck? What's going on? How can I help you? Even if it has to be, and you have to think about your people here, even if it has to be the blue button over there, the blue button, no, higher, no, higher, further to the right, over there, the blue button, click on the blue button, because sometimes these things happen. I love software. I think it's amazing. I don't think it all should look the same, but sometimes there's a cognitive load from going to where, I don't
Yeah,
know, Gmail's looked a certain way for a long period of time. And now you're in a new environment and you just need to figure out where that send or submit button is.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that whole orientation piece, I consider the customer journey to continue long after the transaction and into the customer success side of things. And I personally believe you want to have kind of a double down effect of the time, effort, and sacrifice your team puts into your customers at that point. If it's 8 to 20 points of contact to produce a sale, then 16 to 40 points of contact after the sale to make sure they're there the next quarter and the quarter after that and the quarter after that and the quarter after that, like using what you're giving them or interacting with your service, like however it works. Please make it useful and easy.
Because the data on cost of acquisition versus cost of retention is well proven.
Yeah.
It's always cheaper to keep them.
Significantly.
Right.
Significantly.
Right. So don't fall into that fallacy of thinking, oh, we can just afford 40% churn. We shouldn't invest in fixing that. Oh, we have an abandon rate. We have a no-show rate. We have a week 2 voluntary termination rate, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. Doesn't matter if it's internal, external, customers or employees. All that short-term churn is super, super painful to your balance sheet. It's all, a lot of it's soft, a lot of it's hidden because you choose not to appreciate the value of it, but it's there. It's absolutely there.
We have one of our product offerings is a weekly cadence of support and, you know, a decent mid-level product. I had a client email recently and say, hey, do you have a downgrade? And I sent them back we'd love it if you didn't. We'd love it if you just showed up to the calls that you haven't been showing up to so you can get value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of this. No response for 2 weeks. I queued it in my calendar, and 2 weeks later, I downgraded their subscription. They got less stuff, but they weren't using it.
Right.
Right. And you can't force them to be there. So one of the other things I'd suggest is you have some sort of structure and policy as well. Because no is not a customer service answer. We'll find a way is.
What I can do for you is, yes.
Yeah. And I gave option A first because we are able to have an impact on the ROI there. Right? When that downgrade is complete, we are powerless to have an impact on that ROI, but I would still have that person, getting the tool and hopefully making some sort of use out of it than not at all. And, it's not like there's a hidden button or anything. If they want out, they can just go and cancel the subscription automatically. It's not like the SaaS of 10 years ago, where it's 2 clicks to sign up and 11 emails to unsubscribe.
Right. Right. There's an extent to which people say things like everyone hates their software, right? Like at the enterprise level where you're locked into a typically 3-year, multi-year agreement and a third-party implementation partner contract, and right, like there's a lot of inertia.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of inertia. So you're not necessarily guarding against, call it immediate abandonment, like you are with some SaaS products, right, in the smaller scale. What you are guarding against, though, is a significant amount of buyer's remorse, the
Yes.
deterioration of your brand over time, right? You're failing to recognize that businesses talk to other businesses, right? So there's a penalty that you will pay from not properly onboarding your new customers and letting them just suffer through the first 18 months trying to get the dang thing implemented, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you do a crappy job, they will remember. And them being stuck with you for an additional 18 months doesn't make it any nicer, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. I would almost borrow a statistic. I don't remember it exactly, but I'm going to try and get you to requote it. But you talked about loyalty in the restaurant industry, and you'd said it was like the 8th time or something that they would then come back after that.
Right. When your customer becomes a committed loyalist.
Perfect.
The 8th visit. Yeah.
So how do you map 8 onboarding calls into your new customer?
Right.
Because hopefully, that time isn't spent talking about your favorite cartoons and the things useful by the time those 8 calls are done, and you've won that loyalty for the long term. And if you're not the implementation partner, how do you map that into your implementation partner so that your success is theirs?
Yeah.
Not to mention sessions 5, 7, and 8 may be upsell opportunities.
Well, that was the other point I was going to make, right? There's in that multi-year contract that you typically sign, somewhere on page 5, right? There's a provision for a certain amount of support and onboarding hours.
Right.
And it's rarely enough. Right?
Well said.
So when you get to the end of that, you have a choice. And you could choose to gouge, here's our margin.
Huh.
Or you could choose charitable, but we're all running for-profit businesses, so that's the other end of the spectrum, also not correct. You could choose to think of it like an opportunity and a sale and approach it very strategically and do some anchoring, do some discounting, Use it an opportunity to build goodwill, right? Use it like, well, you buy 500, we'll give you 500 free. And, typically it's $250 an hour, but we'll sell it to you for $150 an hour, right? Now people feel like they're getting a deal, even though they're having to cut an addendum for another 100K.
Right.
Right. So we don't apologize to the customer that it's going to cost another $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's ways to do this, and rarely does it go well. They just say, "Oh, well, you ran out of hours. Do you want more hours?" Well, come on. Like, try harder. You're in the middle of onboarding. There's a sale to be made here.
Absolutely. I think one of the other considerations, like something that's kind of top of mind for me anyway, is until you know the difference between an account manager and a customer success manager, have one that does both. But you'll notice one is not zero. Like, start there. Take on that role and start mapping out the process and finish every call with, how can I help you? What do you need next? And I promise your customers will actually help you process map the entire thing.
Yep.
Because I find this, obviously this happens in the technical space quite often, right? Very significantly. People who build things understand them exceptionally well, and so they think it's obvious and simple for everyone else.
That's right.
And I promise you it's not, because if you pick up any hard good that has any sort of packaging, you will understand the simplicity that things need to be, right? Because there is a cardboard box, and then it'll clearly say, open here. And you do open it, and then you pull out some packing, and then there's the thing inside of a plastic bag. And while you're pulling it out of the plastic bag, you'll see, like, very clear bold print, do not put this bag over your head.
Read this first. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those words wouldn't exist if it hadn't happened already.
Yeah.
So figure out how to put this into your onboarding processes.
When we used to teach, now we're into product onboarding, right?
Yeah.
Working in tech support, people would call, I just unboxed it and it won't turn on.
Have you plugged it in?
So the first question, but you don't just add, you don't confront them, right?
Right.
I'm not from a service perspective, if I'm in the business of building goodwill with customers, I have to emotionally let them off the hook, right? It's not, hey, you idiot, plug it in, right? It's,
is all the cabling there? Did it show up? Was it in the box?
Yeah. First, let's do an inventory. Tell me what you got in front of you. Dot, right? They just tell me what's on the desk in front of them. All right. Now, I know this sounds silly, right? But you wouldn't believe how often people plug it into the wall, but forget that connector on the back of the drive.
Mm-hmm.
So you just please check that and see, like, no big deal, right? You're
Right.
devaluing it, give them an out, right? Ha, 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 we're laughing about it. 70% of the time they go, oh yeah, silly me. Yeah, no worries.
Right.
Thanks so much for calling. Appreciate you, right? Like, I'm glad you're up and running. What else can I help you with?
Yes.
When they say, nothing else, I think I'm good. All right, we're here when you need us. Just give us a call. Right?
Beautiful.
It's not that hard. If you think of where the customer is, give them some humility, some grace, right? Like, you're not at war with your customers. You need them to believe that you're on their team.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
The other thing in onboarding that I think conceptually it maps really well from the training world, right? Which is where I live most of the time.
Mhm.
We say learning is a process, not an event in time, right? You don't go to a class and become proficient at applying, synthesizing, right? Like evaluating. You can't, right? Initial exposure only gives you a foundation in learning. Then you have to go practice, right? So learning takes a longitudinal approach, a programmatic approach.
Right.
And I say the same thing for onboarding. It's it's a journey, right? It's a story. There's a narrative. And to that extent, when we did the design work for onboarding within a corporate environment, continuity and emotional connection, the idea was we need an anthropomorphized character of their first product,
Right.
right? So take their first product, turn it into a character relative to the context. We made it in the style of steampunk
Okay.
because it worked, it fits. And then that character, we made them, that character is focused on the innovation and the technical side of the business. And then we did another product, turned that into a character. That character is a little bit older, and that character is the holder of the history and tradition and values of the organization.
Got it.
So as you're going through your onboarding, e-learning, in person, seeing the posters around the workplace, right? Sitting in the cafeteria, these characters are present. And depending on what message needs to be delivered, one or the other is delivering it or reinforcing it, being part of it, right? So you get that sense of continuity in your onboarding. Well, you flip it over, point that at the customer. No one liked the Microsoft, paperclip in the corner, right? That was just annoying. But we're
Right.
at the point where you could take a character-based approach to onboarding. Right? You could have a bot
Yeah.
backed up by a really rigorous FAQ, fully empowered to drop an email and open a ticket. And like you could provide your customers a supportive onboarding partner, properly branded in accordance with your business, drastically improve their experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you're starting to build out your knowledge base.
Yep.
While simultaneously, if you pay attention to the support calls, finding the holes in it,
Right.
right? Because if somebody calls in and asks the same question 5 times, it's not in your knowledge base, or if it is, it's not clear.
Right.
And I think it also adds a little space, right? There's a bit of grace there because you get like, oh, our avatar forgot to plug the cord into, right? And it's going to be a commonplace thing. That's why I used the "don't put the plastic bag over your head" thing, because
Right.
obviously it happens enough that people forget about it.
It's so sad. Um, there's an argument to be made that that label shouldn't be on that bag.
Yeah, I think it's primarily a liability issue, but again, it's there for a reason. And back to the onboarding, actually, this is something that's maybe worth playing with new team members. You have a safe space and an environment, like give them the black box and be like, here, your job is to figure out how poorly we explained everything.
Right.
It's not a test. You're giving us feedback. Now, please try and take this thing from zero to working and put them in the customer roles too. I don't know where you're hiring them in your organization for, but I promise you, the more they understand the frustrations of getting the thing to work or having the steps, the more equanimity they're going to have in those support roles.
Yeah.
What's the catchphrase? The struggle is real.
So, indeed. So what's
there?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is there anything you want to loop back to for team members specifically? Because we spend a fair bit on the customer there.
I think what most engagement surveys would tell you is a high correlation for retention is they would say having a best friend at work, right? And that takes a lot of time to build. But to the extent that we're directionally correct, things like buddy programs,
right,
giving somebody that can at least have a familiar collegial, right? Just someone to help them just, what are the norms here? How do I not commit the faux pas? Where's the dang bathroom? How do I navigate? What's the custom related to being on time at meetings and leaving meetings, right? All those kind of, what's the fabric of the culture stuff?
right.
And they can have a certain structure, but adding a human to that adds a value that the structure alone, if you were to hand somebody a checklist, could not replicate.
Yeah.
So it cures loneliness. It's really hard socially joining an organization until you have your group of 20. It's really hard, so that you can quicken that, especially in those first 2 weeks when people still have recruiters calling them. They might still have interviews scheduled.
Right.
It's the machine is still working.
Yeah.
The quicker you get them to say, "Oh, I made a good decision. I'm starting to feel comfortable here. I see a path," right? Then they can block out that noise and get focused. And they don't end up with a 30-day turnover.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, those checklists don't have nuance. So it's the inside scoop that's like, but not on Tuesday.
Right. Right.
Right. Because no matter how clean we think our processes are or how straightforward those things are, those caveats live everywhere inside of an organization, because and I support it. If you have leadership and you're like giving people a little bit of autonomy to do their best work, then everything's going to have kind of a 15% rule on it. Like, this is how we do it here. But in Gary's meetings,
right,
it's that little bit different. And that's part of the culture too. I think the tribalism of these things and the leadership. You're not building robots, and it's not kind of the structure of military. And I think even in those cases, if you move around, you find those differences are there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's even variance in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's not as great as in corporate America because there's an overwhelming amount of similarity in the indoctrination, but there is difference when you go one work center to another, and one squadron to another, one ship to another, one platoon to another, one, right?
Yeah.
Aircraft to another.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out.
Absolutely.
You got to find your people, your tribe within the tribe, as it is.
Yeah. And to touch on something we talked about recently, that's maybe one of your opportunities to be like, are you a dog person or a cat person? Right. And get them into the dog channel.
Yep.
All those little things.
Yep. Taking them out to dinner, having lunches, doing those kinds of things can sound good, can be effective. There's caution to that, though. Dietary, religious, interpersonal, right?
Yeah.
If you've got a super private introverted person who's a vegetarian, don't take them to a steakhouse for lunch and then put them on stage to explain their life story to everyone, right? That's awful.
Right.
Right? Like, come on. Be a bit more thoughtful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Meet people where they are, onboard them according to who they are, their needs, right? Yes, within the context of culture. You're as much onboarding yourself as their leader as you are onboarding them to the company, right?
Absolutely.
So your job is to learn about them, what their needs are, what their goals, ambitions, strengths, developmental needs, preferred methods of recognition.
And I'd revert to that same cadence too that I talked about with customer onboarding. If it's 8 to 20 points of contact for a sale, then 16 to 40 follow-ups with a new hire. And they don't have to be significant, but it's certainly a big stretch away from that quarterly review.
Yep.
Anything else you want people to think about in terms of implementation?
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Well said.
Yes, you
Well
have a
said.
grand vision. It's okay to incrementally approach it one step at a time. Just be 1% better every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Awesome.
And we are